Welcome to Wellness Radio with Dr. Jeanette Gallagher as your host. Her show discusses topics of health, wellness, and spirituality and is about discovering your place in this great universe from your cells to the cosmos. Along with her guest, in casual conversation, she strives to ask the difficult questions that may be holding you back from a vibrant life and shares new ideas that may inspire you to make a change in your life that you only can see in your dreams. And now, here is Dr. Jeanette Gallagher.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wellness Radio. This is Dr. Jeanette Gallagher, and it's a pleasure to have you with us here this evening. Tonight we are going to be talking about the thoughts in our mind, our body, and our spirit. What is really rising up for us these days? Perhaps what are the whispers of our body it might be saying to us? Is it saying sit still, go outside, perhaps do a dance, or maybe you need some different food? What about our mind? Maybe it's saying, oh, I've heard that story before. Maybe let me try something different, or perhaps no way am I going to engage in that today. And maybe our spirit, it's perhaps telling us there's something new coming along, have patience, rest, or perhaps now is the time to take action. What is it all about? It is about being able to be in awareness of what we are hearing, sensing, and feeling, and use them as our actionable times each day, instead of perhaps going forth as we may have been given a book many decades ago that says, you're going to have this label, you're going to do this job, you're going to be able to have this house, this family, and then at the end, turn around a reflection and write out a legacy plan. Truly, in the year 2023, we are really so much more than just a human. Are you ready for the adventure? It's about being able to find some guideposts, thoughts to till the soil, or perhaps something to just let go by with the clouds. And today my guest is Adil Panton, and his book is Claim Your Happiness, Practical Poetry for Life, Love, and Self, and that's exactly what he has done. Adil, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jen. I really appreciate your introduction and what you just shared. So wonderful.
I'm so glad to have you on today because, Adil, I think that people are saying, I'm hearing things from other people, and they're putting so much energy into it, and they're kind of taking it as gospel, and they're saying, it's not working out for me, it's not doing this for me, or that. Do you think perhaps sometimes when we hear words, I like to say, it's only 27 letters of the alphabet. Don't give it so much credence that it's got to be gospel. Perhaps?
Yes, I'm under the sense that basically we need to learn to trust ourselves and what we're hearing from the inside. I like to think that our life is an inside job. So if we start there, then we have a good compass how to relate to the outer world.
Yeah, I think sometimes we get so stuck and with all of these like beliefs or truths or kind of dogmas, and we kind of follow them to the nth degree, and we say, I am this instead of I am. And, I am this is taking on a label and all it entitles. And then they kind of get stuck in that little glass box. Do you think perhaps this decade we're learning about boxes shaking? People are losing their jobs. People are getting sick. People are not getting saved. People are losing their lives. They're losing their loved ones. They're losing whatever they thought was their label or their silo. Do you think maybe our silos are being shaken?
Oh, no doubt. Without a doubt, the earth is going through a transition right now, and we're simply a part of it. We have to also experience it. And I think the opportunities for us to really discover that, make that transition on a deeper level. I like to think that we're a spirit having a human experience to the body and the mind. We just need to really readjust ourselves and be one in the flow of life itself and claim life as our master.
I think sometimes when we turn around, we say, but I'm listening, and I'm hearing so much, and there's so much chatter in my mind, and people are saying, I can't kind of figure it out. I don't really know. But I think that's merely giving more emphasis to the chatter rather than letting go of the chatter and then seeing what comes up. Do you think perhaps?
I totally agree with you. I think that I see the chatter as being the ego trying to influence the person.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think we need to sit in stillness in the sense of really the true self only speaks in stillness. It doesn't compete with the chatter. So when we're still, the true self I consider to be rising. And that's what has happened to me with my book. The thoughts in my book comes from me being still and be the observant of what my life is really trying to portray and tell me.
Absolutely. Well, I had written this, I think it was the end of March, and I wrote, silence is not devoid of anything. Mm-hmm. Silence is quieting the conjuring mind and allowing the universe to be heard.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, because I think sometimes people they're all running to these classes of meditation, and they're all trying to get into that silent part, whatever, and they're looking for that emptiness or that box or that void. But in essence, it's just letting go and hearing something else within your space and time. And I think that's really a true gift when you can get to that point. And I can honestly say, many will say, oh, yeah, I'm there, I've got it. And then they're still asking questions. And I'm going, okay, there's a little bit more, keep going. And don't you think that it's not a marker or a plateau that you come to, and it's an experience that you engage in, perhaps?
I totally agree with you. I like the word you said, true gift. I think the true gift is a relationship we're having with ourselves that comes about by being, like you said, being still. I found I consider myself to be so fortunate at a period in my life when I had to really look inside and basically become aware of the gifts. That is our true self.
Yes, as I so eloquently have labeled it, I think it was over a decade ago, I said, breathe. Everything else is lagniappe. And lagniappe here in the South means everything else is a gift. So all of our breath is the only thing we were given. Everything else is a gift. It's a gift of life from source, from the universe, from your God, whatever you want to call it. You can, dance in that each day. But it's very important to understand that everything is a gift. Then you don't walk around the earth saying, I deserve this. I expect that. I command that.
Right.
Don't you think?
I totally agree with you. Like you said, our life is a gift. And once we can accept ourselves as a gift, we can be present in this moment. That's all that matters is this moment. And, breath is life and life is breath. And that's the ultimate gift, is breath. You are your breath. And with the breath comes awareness or consciousness.
Absolutely. Adil, all of the pages in your book are small poems. They have a topic, several lines, and you kind of just sit with them. This is not a book that you sit and you read from front to back. It is a book that you set down, and you'll pick up when you're so guided, read a page that you come to, and just use it as your thought for today, reflection for the moment, or perhaps something that may guide you, maybe in the place that you're in. And I think that perhaps each one of your poems and your kind words and your sentences are something that we kind of can say, I'll take that to heart today. Some days you may say, perhaps maybe not today. Or maybe that is exactly what I needed today.
Right. It's totally. I have an experience with my clients because I'm in the healing arts and I do different body work, especially massage. And after a session, because a lot that comes in the book came from my experience with my clients over the years. The book has been made over 25 years. First by me writing things down and sharing with friends. So you know what? You should write a book. And I kind of coyed that idea for years. And then I finally said, I'm going to write this book. And what happens now with my clients, I find after a session, I'll tell them, I have the book on my desk, and I say, open to a page, any random page. And it so happens that page would actually be either a confirmation of what we spoke of or things we need to be aware of personally for that client. It's amazing.
Yes. It absolutely works that way. I think also, too, when people will say, oh, that's not me, I say absolutely, maybe, perhaps, and just let it sit with it. Because I've known, I've been doing healthcare for over 50 years, and I look back on it, and I've had patients that would come up to me, maybe 20, 30 years later. They'll say, you told me something then, and I still never, ever got it. But now I did, and it's 30 years later. I think sometimes it's not always the right time, but perhaps it may be eventually when you're ready to hear. Do you think that sometimes our ears, may hear? I have an acquaintance, and I would say something, and I would wait for a response, and I'd say, okay, so did you hear me? They said, I heard you. I said, you heard me, but you weren't listening. And there's a difference there.
Oh, definitely. I think we tend to hear with our minds and not with our heart or our life itself. But it's buried. The message is being delivered. So there's actually a receiver. And at the time when we're ready to be one with ourselves, we hear it again.
Yeah.
You hear that message once again. There's a file, and the file is always there, and it's like we select the file when we are ready to respond or to transform ourselves, become one with ourselves. So I'm always at peace with the conversation I have with people, whether they respond favorably or unfavorably.
Yeah, because I think it's also in divine timing, so to speak. If they're able to hear or be in awareness. I always liken it to, people will say now, oh, we're going to a different dimension, we're changing our energy fields, we're at a different frequency. All that spiritual talk now. Others in the human realm will say something's not working right. It seems like everything I plug in either blows out or it doesn't work. So definitely there is a change. We can give it whatever label we would like. However, it just seems to be that there is a difference. Because if you think back several decades, when our cars used to have AM, FM radio, you had to flip a little button on the bottom. There's no way that you could ever have an AM station play on an FM station band. It just doesn't happen. So if you are not open in awareness and you're not in that space and time to be ready to receive it, there's nothing that's going to force it in. When the door opens, when you cross the bridge, the other door closes. And I think that's pretty important to understand, because sometimes people really try to force their enlightenment, their awakeness, their whatever it is. They try to force it and say, I need to fit it. And it's just not going to happen. Have you found that?
Oh, no, definitely that is true. I totally believe in the aspect of cause and effect. And, when you are ready to make that giant leap in faith and understanding, then the door opens. But the door is always there. You may walk by the door, but you're not ready, like you said, prepared or ready to make that giant leap in faith. That's the power of the human spirit. You can do whatever you want with your life. You're the architect of your life, and you're empowered to make decisions that based on your own the wisdom that you seek and want already exists inside of you. But like you said, when you're ready, the teacher will appear. And believe it or not, that teacher really is your own self. There may be a guide to get to that inner realm of understanding awareness, but you are your own teacher. Life is the greatest teacher, per se.
Right. I think sometimes people will talk about the circle of life. They will talk about, the Enzo circle in Buddhism. They will talk about waves, and they will talk about perfection and imperfection. However, in essence, life will have a beginning and an end of the human realm, the human body, but there isn't any beginning and end of your soul and your spirit. You're really eternal. And I think sometimes some people will say, well, I really don't understand that. But yet they'll say, I have deja vu. I've been here before. Or, I have a sense about something. I remember a story in the 1800s that kind of came to my thoughts, and I'll say, oh, so perhaps your eternal soul and spirit has been somewhere else before? Can you tell me the story about it? You know, we think about our past lives, our future selves, and all of that's all reflected within the universe. So is there truly a circle? You know, I always think of, you know, the yin and the yang, you know, and people will say, well, things always have to be, you know, in balance. And I say, but the yin and the yang is not gray. You're going to be in some sort of space and time. You may be over here and it may be slightly a balance, but it's not a gray circle. You know, just as you think of the ends of the circle, it's not always in one space of stagnation. It continually vibrates and moves and flows because of the energy that's given into it. So around the earth even. And if we think of that, and we know now that we are so much more than human, we're energy beings, are we now ready to shed the old stories, the old dogma, the old ways of being, and start creating a new way of language and dialect? And as I've always shared on the show, I said, it's time to kick those words to the curb. They don't fit us anymore. You know, things like suffering, burdens, carrying baggage, I am this ... because those types of things. What do you think about that?
I think I totally agree with everything you're saying, and I give it from a Buddhist perspective because I'm a practicing Buddhist for over 37 years. We say that life is eternal, and you've had many lives, and because you're karma, the life you're experiencing right now is based on the cause you made in the past, the cause you're making now, and what you're intending for the future. I like to tell people like this way, look, we have the seasons, right? So you have spring, summer, fall, and winter. And then after winter, there's spring again. So, you know, you cannot separate yourself from the whole. And that's why we get into trouble. That's why we suffer. We try to separate ourselves from the whole. There's not one universal principle that governs all of life and a separate one for human beings. It doesn't make sense. You know, we're all one and the same thing, you know, but because of the institution of learning or the level of awareness based on limited beliefs and concept of what life is, you know, like you said, we attach these not complete understanding of what life is. If you want to understand life, you simply have to live it and become a great student of life. And life will share with you its secrets. So everything you said, I totally agree with. And I would say basically, you are the master. In Buddhism, we talk about being self-master, become the master of your life. You know, being one with life. You know, and that what you seek, you already possess. And all that is life is already exists inside you. The Buddha says, if you know yourself, you'll know the universe. You know, how simple can it be? Because the universe is, you're a microcosm, the macrocosm. So there's no separation other than, because we're mind-based and not heart-based.
You know, I had a conversation with someone, I think it was maybe about a few years ago, and they were saying, oh, yes, I'm very spiritual, and, you know, I'm really this, ... and they had the whole conversation. And then a few, maybe weeks or so after that, they were reflecting on a story they were telling me that they did a few days earlier. And they were walking down the street, and there was a lot of homeless people. And they said, oh, I just, I did a spiritual thing. I cast my light, and I threw some prayers to them. And I'm going, oh, how disrespectful. You know? It's, I think, sometimes the idea of, is spirituality putting us up on a pedestal? And are people seeing it as, well, they are now walking around in white robes and they're good people, and they're devoid of all of the other people in the world or the other situations in the world, or they may go live off the grid and they're not going to have any more physical human problems anymore. You know, that separation thing. And when you start to do that, and then you start to say, you know, well, you should do what I'm doing because look at it over here. It's really just been a very lateral way of living. You really have not ascended much at all, because ascended means that you are part of the entire paradigm versus going on the lateral paradigm, left to right, good, bad, light, dark, sick, disease, all of that other stuff. When in essence, if you take it and you see it, you get to one side and you're always in judgment. Let's talk about the word judgment for a minute. I mean, goodness gracious, there's so much of it. I think that almost every breathing human being says, I do it, I understand it. But I'm really working on being better or being changed or understanding or whatever it might be. So judgment takes a lot of our effort, maybe.
No doubt, definitely. I chant every day, Nam Miracle to purify my life, so I can really be clear of judgment. Well, I'm always aware of judgment, and like you said, you can't sit on the mountaintop and then say that you're free and everybody else is suffering. Referring to the Buddha again, the purpose of the Buddha is to save all people from suffering with his infinite compassion, courage, and wisdom, And you can't be so spiritual, you forget the physical. You can't be so physical, you forget the spiritual. Like I said, you mentioned the yin and the yang. It's balanced. Life is balanced. Positive and negative is what makes life that we experience what it is, right? The thing is, a circle is a circle because you stand in the center, and it can relate to every aspect, every point on the circle without being indifferent to what's happening at the center, So it's about having compassion for all of life, wherever people are. They're on their journey. That's their journey. Right. Only I can relate to spirituality. It's a journey to discover self, not step away from self or separate yourself from the whole, but claiming the wholeness and demonstrate through your action and behavior that you are understanding what spirituality really is. You have to demonstrate in a mundane world. The lotus flower, which is a symbol of Buddhism, only grows in a muddy swamp. There's no ideal in life that people are seeking outside themselves, right? It's a relationship you have with yourself and a relationship you can have with the environment that makes you whole.
Right.
Or
I
truly
think
spiritual.
Also, too, I think also, too, the idea is that, the last, 6 to 8 weeks, I got really sick, and I mean really sick. And I had so many people, I'll tell you, more than I can count on my hands, say to me, you're a doctor, what's wrong with you? Why did you get sick? Didn't you know better? And I just kind of went back and I said, but I'm a human being. I had an experience. That's it. And I think the idea is our judgment and casting out. Just as we say about people suffering, we're the yin and the yang. You can be that point of balance, but you can still see health. You could still see wellness, but you can also still see illness, sickness. The idea is that you understand it all, you feel it all, and you're aware of it. And then the idea is, yes, I was really sick. It really took me out for 6 weeks. But it was the time that I needed to rest, I needed to reset, I needed to regroup, and I needed to have, something just put me down and say, be still. And I think sometimes we say, but we should have avoided it. We should have been better at our prevention. And it's like, goodness gracious, then what is the experience we're here on this earth for? We are here to experience all that comes our way and accept it. I think acceptance and awareness are bigger players than judgment and denial and running from it. Maybe?
I totally agree with you. I think that, part of human experience is to have the circumstances to really relate to someone else. You can't relate to someone you're not able to go through what they're going through. The Buddha says there are 4 major suffering: birth, age, sickness, and death. And no matter who you are, this is what we have to do as a human being. So as a human being, you're going to get sick. The thing is, though, do you make sickness be a controller of your life experience, or do you help? He says that sickness is a means to seek the way. So when you're sick, you're in the process of developing a new growth level in your own self and awareness, right? It's like a rebirth, an opportunity to really learn more about yourself and gain more wisdom and understanding so you can help someone else. To be a successful person, it's not how much money you have in the bank. It's how many people, how can you help other human beings become happy, right?
Right.
So sickness is a way to seek enlightenment, because now, think of it, when we actually get sick and we recover, right, then we feel a more zest for life. We feel recharged. We feel rejuvenated. We feel stronger. We're happy that we overcame it. You know what I mean? So sickness can also we can utilize it for our own enlightenment and growth and development.
Yeah. I always look at sickness, Adil, like, oh, gosh, awesome. I hit some kind of energetic wall, and it just needed to detox itself. I think of, when you do acupuncture, when I'm cleansing out or opening meridians or whatever that might be, you always think of the same thing. Oh, I have a headache. Oh, that meridian might be a little bit closed. Oh, that energy flow is a little bit blocked. Or maybe, oh, goodness, I have my glasses that are pushing on it. Or, oh, goodness, I ate something that really didn't agree with me. Or maybe I needed to get out in the sun to energize the rest of my body to push through. It's about having a different enlightened conversation with yourself.
Yes.
Versus saying, oh, my gosh, I'm sick, find the doctor, tell me what my diagnosis is, and I want to have the pill that's going to fix it and get me out of my misery. It's like, my thought doesn't even go there. I don't even know what that is. And it's so funny. Right. I think it was probably, even though I'm almost 70, it was maybe about 2 years ago. Someone had said something on the show to me, and I after the show, I pulled out my phone, I wrote, define suffering. Literally, I did not know what the definition of suffering was. Okay. Because, I've had a horrendous life. I have had violence, abuse, disease, all kinds of stuff in my life. But I've never, ever used the word suffering. But there'd be many times I would tell people my story, just to be relatable, to be able to understand, and to share. And they'd say, oh, my gosh, I'm so sorry for your suffering. And I'm going, I don't understand that. I don't know what you're talking about. It just didn't, because I didn't carry that burden.
Right.
I didn't carry it as a burden of mine. I carried it as an experience that I ventured through. So our conversations, just as you share in your book, again, the name of the book is Claim Your Happiness, is about just that, reframing, changing the language, and looking at something with different eyes. That's where we're really going, perhaps?
We are definitely moving more towards the light that's inside. Your life is an inside job. And like you said, sickness is a way to seek the way, and basically, how can we help other human beings if we can't relate to what they're going through? And suffering, for me, the definition is attachment to something other than yourself that's become greater than yourself. You know what I mean? Like you said, life is experiences. From birth to end, you're going to experience life. Life is like being on a roller coaster. It just takes you up and down, and some people love riding the roller coasters because it's exhilarating. The joy, there's drama, there's so much in that one ride. All you gotta do is put your seatbelt on and stay in the cart. And you'll get to your destination. And really, there's no destination because it's a circle once again. Constantly repeating itself with different levels of awareness, understanding the growth and development. Just like a tree is constantly growing, seeking the light. What's this tree like? The sun, right? But still being itself in its growth. Can we do that as human beings? Can we really experience ourselves as human, as what we really are? Light, spirit, all these names speak about the one thing that you are. Energy. In revelation. Energy in in exploration. Energy in basically discovering.
As we share on the show, I always say, welcome to dancing in the ethers, because we truly are being able to say, if you could feel that energy, you could understand that it's not a trajectory. It's not a straight line going up, down, whatever, It's about a web of existence. You might be eating well, doing everything, that you feel like you're supposed to do, and all of a sudden you get taken out and you have a disease or you have a misfortune, and then you're on a different trajectory. No, perhaps you're just in a different spot on the web, and you'll find a different way to be able to work within that to become your reality for a while, and then you'll move to another spot. You'll either have a healing, you'll stay in the illness, or you'll say, I'm so much more than all this is, and then those labels will go away. So there are so many infinitesimal options in the world to be able to change your existence, to be able to look at it with different colored eyes, to be able to engage and open up. I mean, even though it's what your book is about, all of these are about all these different ways to experience. Isn't what we're talking about today is the ultimate experience and how many different perspectives you could have for it.
Yes, definitely. I call it a celebration of life. I mean, life is such a wonderful teacher because it doesn't judge, does not discriminate. It says, life gives us everything, and we sell for less than we deserve, and we do injustice to ourselves. We don't have sickness. When you have sickness or conditions, it's about how much compassion you have for yourself, right? We're quick in compassion or seeking to help someone else or loving someone other than ourselves, and sometimes we need that reminder, that comes about through sickness to really honor and respect our life and realize our self-worth is the same as that which we try to give away.
Yeah. Let's talk, Adil, for a second about, you have a great section about love. As soon as you say the word, people right up in their little Rolodex comes the word, the definition, what it is, what it isn't, and what they expect. And, I kind of step back and I go, what kind of love is that you're looking for? If you look back on it several decades ago, people would say, oh, well, if you've had, a divorce, you probably had some problems, you didn't take care of yourself, the whole psychologist thing. And then, they'll say, oh, well, if you had 2 divorces, then, we have to look at this. Who's the main factor here? You've been the same person, so there must be something wrong with you. And I totally flip the coin. I'll say, isn't that absolutely awesome? You've been learning from so many different people. Isn't that awesome? Or like even when people will come to me, as a patient, they'll say, well, I have this disease or this cancer and I need some help. And I'll say, oh, I'm so glad you're here. This is awesome. And they'll say, what? I might be dying and it's awesome. I'll say, yes, because you've been seeking something your whole life. And now you're willing to open a new door.
You're so courageous in that, making that point clear. But I commend your courage to actually share that wisdom.
Well, that's because I work with patients that are at end of life, and they'll say, "Oh, well, I'm dying," and they've got all this baggage that they're carrying. I'll say, "Honey, baby, you can't carry that baggage through this little tiny hole of a door. You best let it go. So figure out a way right now." And they're going, huh? And I mean, like their eyes pretty much bug out of their head. Yeah. Because many people want to carry their secrets, their baggage, their dogma with them. And it's like, but it doesn't fit through that little door. You're going to have to figure it out, So I think let's be real with who we are, what we're doing, what we're thinking, what we're talking about. And let's have those conversations.
You're so courageous. And two things come to mind. Basically, first, I've always thought if you're married more than one time, you're a very optimistic person.
That's correct.
You're very optimistic because you're not giving up on love. You're not giving up on having this fulfillment in your life. You're very optimistic. And I like to share that if you learn a lesson, it's not a mistake. It's an experience. I mean, life does not make mistakes. It's just your definition of what the situation was, right? Because at times, which causes the greatest pain teaches the greatest lesson. So if you learn a lesson, your divorce is not a failure. it's an experience of learning. You know
That's
what I mean?
Right.
And,
yep.
and then, the point you made about sharing this death with people as a wonderful opportunity, greatness in death. I remember when I teach Qigong and Tai Chi, and I like to affirm as I'm doing the movement certain stance or situation. And I do a stance where I say, hold your hands out, right? Turn them over. Mm-hmm. That's death. Turn your hands over. That's life. Life is life and death. And you know what? I lost a few students because with that one message.
That's right.
I was like blown away. They were stuck in their paradigm. They couldn't accept life and death as being one. So it was very amazing to me. Amusing, very amusing. No judgment. No, just like, okay, they're not ready. They're not ready.
That's right.
But
and that's so true. And I think it's also true at the point of, when someone gets very ill in a family, and you get to that point of, I've had this experience with my own family where everybody was running, we have to do this, we have to do that. I said, wait a minute. Who's the we? Do you mean you because you're the observer and you aren't wishing to allow the process? Right. And you want to save or change or whatever it might be, or rescue, that's about you, yes. And I think also, too, the idea is that when you talk about claim your happiness, what is it for you, even to the moment of death of our physical human being, of ourself, we can understand this is only the body that I'm shedding. I have one patient. She was very ill, and she called me up, and she says, can you come over for 5 days and let's really get a handle on what's going on? And I did. And the first day I kind of walked in, I went, it took me, I couldn't even adjust to the chaos. The second day, I tried to make some sense of it, and we started to make some changes. The third day, I says, what do you really want? And she says, well, I asked her first what was her fear. And she said, well, it was after Hurricane Katrina. We just bought this house. We have this car, all this debt. And, my partner, I'm really worried about, how's she going to make it and everything. So I kind of guess I need a heart so that I could be around so that we'd be able to pay all these things off. And I said, honey, you're going to die. Your physical body's going to go. You don't have bills in heaven, so get over it. And her eyes just bugged out again because I was being honest. And she said, okay. So what do I do when she keeps coming in the room and squawking about this stuff? I said, you put one hand on top of another and pretend that there is a bug on your forefinger and just flick it off. Just flick it off, the action of an energy. She did that one time, and she says, you know what? She never came back to bother me about that again. Never once. And I said, now what do you want? And she said, I want a new heart. So we went down to town, and I said, how do you want to get that heart? She says, well, I already looked it up. Here's a doctor. He's from Paris, and he's here this week, and blah, blah, blah. Maybe we can go see him. I said, okay. I made the call. Of course, this stuff never happens in real life. So I knew it was divinely timed. Within an hour, we had an appointment for the next day to see this infamous transplant heart doctor, and bring your stuff down and come on down. So I went down, and he looked at her, and he says, honey, enjoy today. She said, am I going to die today? He said, no, but enjoy today. And after that, we went driving all around the city and all of the places, that she used to grow up and stuff like that. And she said, oh, that's a stoop I used to sit on. And I said, honey, your behind couldn't possibly fit on that thing. Don't tell me you sat on that. So she was laughing and she was happy, went home that day, and she passed within 2 days. But the night that she passed, we had the house filled with balloons, party favors, all of her friends at 2 o'clock in the morning, to usher her soul out. Now, that's truly a celebration of life. That's truly a celebration of let's see how we can reframe the way in which we choose to leave this world, and not to be able to take it as something that's been an old, antiquated story. Don't you think perhaps your book, Adil, Claim Your Happiness, is truly a fragment of that? Because what you're saying is you don't need to have those old dogma stories anymore.
Right.
Let's pick something different, right?
Right.
Just as she did.
Yes, the whole thing about the book is giving people many options to really experience themselves on a deeper level, not telling you exactly how you claim your happiness. If it's your happiness, you can claim it any way you want.
Yeah. I mean, if you're at the end of life, do you think you need to worry about your bills?
Not at all. Not at all.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you do energetically have to make a shift so you could clear that out of your space. And then to be able, in New Orleans, we all celebrate life here at death time. We don't pretty much, have the old symbols or the old ways, that people are stuck in. So I think the idea is that to be able to share that with others, because there are people who would love to go out that way. I don't know about you, but I've worked a lot with angels and ghosts, over the decades. And there's a lot of people that when they want to go through that door, they get stuck in the middle thing. They don't want to leave here because they're so attached to their family, their ancestral lineage. But I think to be complete and to be able to, as you know in Buddhism, to be able to go to that next place, you need to totally disconnect from that ancestral lineage you were in and be able to say, I'm complete. Close the door fully behind you.
Right. Well, we say in Buddhism, how you live this life determines your next life, right? And life moves forward, not backwards. So if the best way to prepare for death is to live the best life you can right now. With the reason why people can't go to the door is because they know they did not live they did not fulfill their purpose and intent, right?
Yeah.
So they have remorse and regret. You if you live in a fulfilled life, right? You don't have to be discouraged by death.
Right.
Right?
But
because
don't you think But don't you think also, too, that's a human dogma of certain, and in other words, I've got this checklist, I have to accomplish it.
Yes.
If all you accomplished in this one lifetime was one thing, then maybe that's all it was meant to be. I think sometimes we get stuck in the hang-ups that I didn't do everything right, or I didn't check off of all of my list, when maybe it wasn't meant to be, but you were just to be aware of things.
Right. Well, the thing is, if you're doing your best, you don't have to worry about the rest.
Right.
So that's, if you're doing your best, you don't have to worry about the rest, because the rest will take care of itself. But you being the best human being and you can be, and that, what is that? That's honoring and respecting yourself at the highest degree. I call it self-love is the greatest love, right? Because when you love yourself, you don't do harm to yourself through thoughts, words, or action, right? And you won't do it you won't do it to others either. Self-love is the greatest love, and the more love you have for yourself, the more you can share. And when you love yourself, you're being responsible, not selfish.
And I think also, too, the idea, let's, in closing, talk about the word happiness. I think people get wrapped up in that, and they believe that you need to be shining your light, happy and joyful. Every word that comes out of your mouth is such a joy to be around. Well, the human experience isn't that. Maybe for a small percentage, and everybody else is not seeking to find their golden pathway that those people walk on. In other words, we don't always have to be able to find a guru to be able to get us where we have to go. So the idea is that perhaps the word happiness might just be, if you just for 1 minute set your hand across your heart, breathe, and can feel your heartbeat, that's self-happiness. You just had it today, 1 minute of it. It didn't mean you had to have all minutes of 24 hours. You had it today, 1 minute, and that was just fine. So I think, can we say these small, gentle moments, that's about your essence speaking, versus saying that I didn't do it right?
Oh, no doubt. Definitely. I mean, happiness is a prerequisite for being unhappy. We've been marketed what happiness is. which is an illusion, right? Because what we've been marked to is relative, not absolute.
Right.
For me, it's about, we have to make a distinction between relative and absolute. And like you said, absolute is the essence, right? We make ourselves unhappy because we tend to looking on the outside and trying to fill ourselves up. Well, you already have everything you need all on the inside. Your job is to accept it, seek it, and then express it. You know what I mean? Because happiness is a feeling. It's not acquiring a certain thing. Like if I have this job, I'll be happy. If I marry this person, I'll be happy. That's all relative because those things are temporary, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, all you have is yourself, and all you can take with you when you die is yourself, and the relationship you have with yourself. So happiness is really the condition where you really accept yourself in a manner that's best available to you and you make possible for you, right? Mm-hmm. I like this with the Buddha Nichiren Daishonin. It says basically, the wise person is swayed by the blowing of the eight winds, prosperity or decline, joy or pain, grace or dishonor, right? Censure or praise. True, that person is there to be called wise because you're not swayed. You're being the flagpole, not the flag. Happiness is a fleeting moment because they're not anchored on having recognized the joy that they are. Your life is a joy. Like you said, your life is a gift. Every breath you have should make you happy. And that should be more than enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always had this sense that I've always been able to fly. I don't feel anchored. Now, this is my own personal view because I really, truly have been so much more in the ethers. In other words, been in that state. Pretty much going to operate and navigate from that. And just as I'm saying it, I'm looking out at the cypress tree in front of me, and there's a cardinal just sitting there, So I believe that the world is a different place. I see it through different eyes. I think I've also had so many people say to me, Jeanette, when are you ever going to come back to the regular world? You have to. And when it hits you, you're going to be in deep trouble. And I turn around and say, I am just fine where I am. So to have the power to know wherever you are when you step out of the mundane or the swamp or whatever that is, to say, I am just fine where I am.
And where you are.
Right, and then to disconnect from that tribe, that's when the real process of awakening and awareness begins, perhaps?
Mm-hmm. Well, you're in the realm of existence and non-existence, and you got to be able to really combine them, integrate both simultaneously. And that's what we call being present. Recognize that you're more, but I'm here. And how can I really aspire to bring what's ultimate truth, being the spirit, into the mundane world? Because that's what's missing. People are not connected with their spirit, right?
Yeah.
And the way they do it is not fulfilling, because then you're not enough. The way that people are related to spirit, you're more than enough. Yeah. That's why you can be here and there at the same time, because you're more than enough.
I think sometimes in closing, I wanted to just touch on this, that what we're talking about today, many people are saying, but I'm not understanding. I can't figure it out. The answer is just to pick up your book, Adil, to be able to open to any page, see what shows up for you today. Maybe to get some cards out there. There's tarot cards, there's angel cards, there's earth cards, whatever there is. There's, for some people, it's the Bible. For some others, it's to read some people's stories about their own life. And there's different ways to be able to become guided. And you transition through a lot of these different tools that you have. You'll start asking questions. You'll go on the internet more. You'll start ending up being sick a bunch of times, and you'll be able to say, what's this about? I need to learn more. Or you may start having some issues in your life, and you'll say, oh, this is taking me on a different journey. Let's see where it goes. Can I see the difference that I would have seen before? That's when I think the idea is that you say there are so many other tools out there. Just open yourself up. What shows up in front of you? Maybe.
No, if you ask the question, the answer's in the question, right? And you just need to be still so you can get the answer, because you really have the answers. You know, Lao Tzu said, at the center of your life, you know who you are, you know what you want, right? So if we allow ourselves to be ourselves and ask the questions, we also realize we have the answers. We just have to be still so the answer can come apparent to us, you know? And the book is a catalyst for you to really start to question and answer the questions. What's the purpose? What is life? Like the book, it's in 3 parts: love, life, love, and self. You know? And that the book is an opening for you to discover the wonder and the greatness that is you.
I think it's a great journey that you took us on, Adil, today, and thank you so much for the conversation. Could you share with the listeners how to find out more information about your work?
My website is healingartstouch.com. You can find me at author.adilpanton.com. You can find me on Facebook, just simply Adil Panton. And, of course, you get the book, then you get a real gist of who am I in the sense of being and how we can become friends.
Absolutely. Well, Adil, it was such a great time having you with us today, as we say, to dance in the ethers and to be able to walk along the earth. So I thank you so much for sharing your words and kind wisdom with us today.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Jan. It was a pleasure talking to you in a like-minded, like spirit. It was a dance, for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. If you'd like to find out more information about Adil Panton, again, the book is Claim Your Happiness, Practical Poetry for Life, Love, and Self. Please do click on the link on the bottom of today's show page to go directly to his website for more information about his work and his book. And definitely it is about being able to say, I need to lift up. I need to get myself out of the space I've been in and be able to put on my wings and perhaps just move to the side, shake and shimmy, and say that there's something different. Get out of the space you're in. Just be able to say, shake it off, let it go. Clean out a drawer, clean out a closet, open a window, open a door. Take down those big curtains and be able to see that there's more light in the world, and you are also part of it. You are the light. You are the light of the energy of the universe. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Dr. Jeanette Gallagher, and until tomorrow, have a great day.
Today we discussed many life-changing concepts. Who do you turn to, and how do you know what is best when faced with a health crisis? Dr. Jeanette is a patient advocate. She listens to the patient, the doctors, and the family, clarifies the health issues and concerns, then helps the patient make the best choices going forward. If you would like help implementing change into your life and health, we can talk and see where you are stuck and how to improve the quality of your life. Check the link on the bottom of today's show page or visit drjeanettegallagher.com to schedule a phone appointment today.